This was a video I made 3 years ago, not long before moving to Toronto for university.
Últimamente bastante gente me pregunta cómo te sientes de ya irte.
In it, I made it very clear that despite not being nervous about the leap itself, there was a need for me to pull my pants up, look to the horizon, and hope that life treats me well. Let's see how things played out. With the year coming to an end, I decided to clean up and organize my drive, aka the Beast. This bad boy is a piece of a larger and more long-term project I have going on where I want to just keep track of these different memories of my life, because as a kid my dad had one of those tape recorders, and I can speak from my own experience how cool it is to be able to see memories from decades ago, and I would love to document my own life and have something to show others, or even just relive myself decades from now. With that being said, let's set the mood for January. At the time, I was still in Ecuador, having the absolute best time of my life right after finishing an internship. It was the first time I had really gotten a break from life in general, as I had been working and studying at the same time for about a year and a half at this point. And it was just me surrounded by my closest friends, my family, just doing so many things that I obviously didn't get to do while I was in Toronto. I celebrated my 21st birthday, and since I still had internship money, that was not a concern at all, so I was quite literally living like a king. I've not been back home since, and unfortunately probably won't be for a little longer, which kind of sucks, but so it goes. I was pretty scared of going back to Toronto because I was aware of how far from reality the last 4 months of my life had been, and I genuinely thought it was going to take me forever to recover and settle back in. To be honest, it was a feeling that I was already kind of familiar with from previous travels, where the return to reality really just destroyed me. I did have a lot of time to just think and reflect and ponder about life, mainly because after coming back, I didn't have a job. It was still winter, so the winter blues were very, very real, and that didn't help me at all to recover. I was also on my 5th semester of uni. I had one more to go, and at this point it becomes a big reality of, what am I gonna do next? What's next in life? What's the next big step? With that mindset, I even made this 30-minute yapathon. Life is moving so fast. Before I know it, I'm gonna be 25, I'm gonna be 30. Where I just kind of got some random thoughts out. It was also more of an experiment because I was, and I still am, very excited about the idea of just making content that's very personal to me. This was an attempt at doing something a little different. And even more so, I ended up getting this camera right here, which I'm recording this video with. And although it wasn't the best financial decision, it felt like a really cool next step to take, with the hopes that once again, this part of my life would develop. Even if it was just like silly little projects that never got to see the light of day, or just recording myself doing ordinary stuff. Then in March, I began reading. It's kind of funny to admit as well how it all began, but I was pretty into this girl, and she was pretty into reading, and I had a lot of time in my hands, so I figured, why not? And what started as that, it became a real hobby of mine nowadays, so pretty cool development, I guess. One of the first books I did actually read was a recommendation from her, and there is one quote from the book that seemed particularly relevant at the time. It was The Old Man and the Sea, and the quote goes like this: "Now is no time to think of what you do not have. Think of what you can do with what there is." Okay, maybe I lied about the whole not doing anything for the first couple of months thing. I was also a part of an international volunteering organization, and April was right around the corner, and I had been aware that April was going to be good because there was an event coming up, an international event. And because of this, the perfect opportunity to lift the spirits was literally right around the corner. going to Mexico was just insane. But even beyond that, the previous 2 conferences I attended had already filled me with so much passion and drive. And Mexico was no different in that. So it did give me a very nice motivation boost that at the time was much needed. Then in May, not long after coming back from that trip, I visited my family in the US, and it was a great opportunity to settle down. I was yet again facing one of these peak low situations, and spending some time with family somewhere else was a great way to regulate myself. Not just that, but I was also starting my 6th and final semester, and because it was all online, I was able to just take classes, do my thing over there, and I just overall had a really, really wholesome time. Wholesome is probably the best way to describe this time in the US. Now, I still didn't have a job, unfortunately, so I couldn't just carry on living in a fantasy, and at this point, my rather irresponsible financial decisions were starting to get back at me. I went back to Toronto. Thank God I got a job not long after that, and even having a job, I thought my worries would kind of lower, but it became very apparent that that wasn't exactly what was really plaguing my mind. I very much so yearned for community and a sense of belonging to the place where I was living. And now with that being said, enter Chomsa. Chomsa has been my long distance best friend for about 6 years now. We had bugged each other to move together since she was in Halifax and I was in Toronto. And what was a long standing joke started to become a real possibility. So I did what seemed unimaginable at the time, which was start a completely new job hunt in a city thousands of kilometers away from me, until one day a call came and an interview was on the table now. I vividly remember the events of these weeks because it was probably the most 20s life will ever get for me, and I was also fully aware of how insane everything that was happening at the time was. So I even started recording some videos here and there. Not gonna lie, one of the reasons I'm making this video is to be able to use those clips where I recorded myself on what at the time I assumed would be my last day at my job, traveling to Halifax for a day, going to my job interview, getting the job on the spot, and now having this sort of certainty that my life was about to change a couple weeks from now. It was all a bit crazy. Not just that, but it's impossible for me to talk about my year and not mention Brazil. So let's talk about Brazil. 2 days after coming back from Halifax with my new life basically secured, I was hopping back on another plane and now heading to yet another international event, this time a larger scale one in a country I didn't know. And holy shit, this was one of those moments in life where as you're in the moment, you just kind of know that it's going to become a core memory, and you'll look back at it when you're older and you think about the time that you were in Rio de Janeiro with a bunch of people from all over the world, just having literally the time of our lives. And I've not been able to shut up about it just yet because to be 21 in Rio, I say a lot. Rio itself was very cool, but a big part of it is this group of people that I get to meet through these events. I got to see some familiar faces, meet some new ones, and overall, it's just really insane. Fuck, man, this is insane. And all of that happened almost exactly 4 months ago, yet it still feels like yesterday. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that only a week later after coming back from Rio, I was getting on yet another plane. This time actually carrying all my stuff. New life, new beginnings, new beginnings. And the craziness definitely helped. I couldn't say I reached another one of those peak low moments that I had become a bit too accustomed to, especially this year, because overall life has been pretty stable. Knock on wood for 2026, but life has been good. I kind of found what I wanted here because while making this video, it became extremely apparent that every single time my life was good was because I was surrounded by people who reassured me, who felt like they were really there for me, or just in general that they made me feel like I do belong somewhere. Almost every single bad time I had throughout this year was mainly times where I had to isolate from everyone else and kind of just lock in. Although I can still obviously be locked in, it's also really important for me to acknowledge that I rely on these people so much. Now after Rio, I also experienced something very specific, which was this aching sense of nostalgia, this kind of fear. And maybe even one of the reasons why I like to record the stuff I do is, when will I ever get to live this again? It's honestly a really big fear of mine going into 2026, and not just that, but growing older. I have been so privileged for the last 2 years, and I've gotten to live so many amazing experiences that it really scares me once it's time to settle down and actually just log in. It scares me to know if I will get to feel the way I have felt this year again. But when I glamorize my year through this, it's really easy to look at all the great ones and kind of really feel attached to them, sort of even creating this fake narrative of what actually happened. Because of course, if you zoom into day-to-day life, it's really hard to see anything valuable in it, at least from a content perspective. And zooming out makes it so easy. And that's why I think I have adopted this style of videos where I can just zoom out and speak on things so broadly with all the knowledge that I have gained and with all of the experience that I've been able to have. I love making these videos, but I also have to admit, I think it's really dangerous for my psyche because it's really hard to live up to these things, especially when I look back at it. It's again this sense of aching nostalgia. Will things ever be as good as this? Just like I've caught myself living through core memories, I've caught myself living through what I would assume should be core memories, but in reality they turn out to not feel as good as I would imagine them. And to clarify, this video isn't only about looking back at my year. It's more about looking back, responding to myself from 3 years ago. Did life treat me well? Yes, it fucking did. But that's not to say that there weren't times where I have felt like absolute dog shit, because it's so easy to make a random memory the most aesthetic, nostalgic when you just add some cute music, a nice little montage, some sound effects, some lighting, and then magically it's all good. Do I want to remember it like that? Maybe, yeah. I think this is a good look into my brain and how I just operate. I do have a tendency to be rather optimistic. Those who know me would probably agree on this. Almost exactly 3 years ago when I recorded my video, the potential of things was what attracted me the most. And although 2023 was probably not the best year, the years after that definitely showed me things that I could not have fathomed. To grow and understand things I thought I really had figured out. This is just basic growing up stuff, like, who the fuck doesn't know this? But this is my story. Check the channel. What does it say? What does it say? So to wrap things up, I will set myself for yet another video. 3 years later now, stepping into adulthood, it's important for me to really accept this idea that life will not be as good as it was in my 20s and my 21s, and that I will be forced to enjoy the micro of every single day, and that these videos will allow me to remember with so much detail not just these memories themselves, but also the state my mind was, and just get to see how I grow, get to see how I change, get to see how, again, I become an adult. I can't just say I hope life treats me well, because at this point that relies more on me than on luck, but at least I'm confident that I've had a good time, and I know what it takes for me to have a good time. In the smaller things and the simpler things, not just the big trips and the crazy experiences. When we simplify it all, it's all about community for me. It's all about a sense of belonging. It's all about being able to wake up and be happy by the people that are around me and the things that I get to do on a day-to-day basis. And also the things that I don't have to do on a day-to-day basis. If you are watching this video and not just know me, but I also got the privilege to share some time with you this year, just know that you are extremely important to me in my growth as a person, in my understanding of others, in my understanding of what it means to be happy, to be content. If there's anyone that's going to be by my side, it's this guy, at least for the next couple of years. And I'll cut myself some slack and make sure that every moment isn't documented and that it isn't glamorized, and that if I need to go through something, I really go through it, and that I don't let myself get taken over by nostalgia, but actually enjoy the moments that I have ahead of me. And honestly, everything else is kind of just off my hand. So I'll make sure to be patient. And yeah, again, thank you to everyone who is watching this video. This is straight up more like a diary to me than it is some piece of content that I would want a larger audience to see. I want to thank my friends, my family. And yeah, stay on the lookout. 2028 Wrapped is going to be crazy. Okay, and that's enough yapping. Bye.